So today, we're going to dive into something called the frequency protocol. It's this really interesting way of looking at personal transformation by thinking of ourselves kind of like a computer. The whole goal? To upgrade our own internal operating system and, get back in the driver's seat.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. Does it ever feel like you're just running on someone else's software? Like you're a guest user in your own life with only limited permissions to your real potential? That's the big idea we're going to get into today. And the whole protocol is really built around this one powerful metaphor, making that huge shift from being a guest user to becoming the full administrator of your own consciousness. It's all about going from feeling limited to being totally sovereign. And this slide just lays it out so clearly, right? On one side, you have the guest user. They're totally exhausted, running on old scripts they inherited, bogged down by all this societal bloatware, and they're always looking outside themselves for approval. But then you have the administrator. They've got full root access to their own consciousness. I mean, just think about what that would actually feel like in your day-to-day life. Having clarity instead of confusion, making choices from a place of deep inner knowing, not just caving to external pressure. It's a night and day difference. And here's a super important point. This is not about learning a bunch of new stuff or cramming more information into your brain. The protocol suggests this is all a process of reclamation. It's about remembering that powerful, original state you were always meant to have, before all the external programming got installed. Okay, so how do we actually start this process of remembering? Well, first, we've got to understand the fundamental operating system that we're all working with, and this is what the protocol calls the unified architecture. The idea here is that our reality is built on three core pillars: science, spirit, and nature. And the key to upgrading from being like a non-player character to the administrator is to get these three things lined up and working in harmony inside of us. So the first pillar is science. Now, this isn't about lab coats and complex equations. It's about a much more fundamental truth of the unified field, this idea that at the most basic quantum level, everything is just interconnected energy. Everything's vibrating at different frequencies, and we are literally part of this huge cosmic web. Next up, we have spirit. This is really about understanding our place in the grand design of it all. It's this recognition that consciousness isn't just some random thing that happens in our brains, but that it's actually fundamental to the entire universe. And finally, the third pillar is nature. And this one is the proof. It's the tangible, living evidence of all these principles in action. Think about the perfect spiral in a seashell, or the rhythm of the seasons. It's all a living testament to that beautiful, organic flow and harmony that happens when all these frequencies are perfectly aligned. All right, so once we get the architecture, the first really practical step is a cleanup. It's time to find and uninstall all that old programming that's keeping us stuck in that guest user mode. This is what's called deleting your legacy code. And here's exactly how you do it. It's a simple but really powerful three-step process. First, you acknowledge the data. That just means you identify a specific limiting belief that's running in your system, something like, "I'm not good enough." Then you source the file. Now this is critical. This is where you realize that this program, it isn't even yours. It was installed by someone or something else: family, culture, past trauma. And finally, you command reset. You take a deep breath, you center yourself in your heart, and you just powerfully visualize that old file, that old belief, completely dissolving into pure, clean, white light. So this legacy code, it isn't just some abstract idea, We're talking about real, tangible stuff. We're talking about those limiting beliefs passed down in your family, the subtle rules your culture puts on you, or even the echoes of trauma that you've inherited. These are the programs we're trying to delete. Okay, so deleting the old code is one half of the job. But now, we've got to install and integrate the new, authentic code. And for that, we turn to something called the Heart-Sync Protocol. This little exercise is designed to bridge that gap between knowing something in your head and actually being it in your life. So first, you find a quiet spot, a sacred space. Second, you place your hands on your heart and just bring all your awareness right there. Third, you ask an affirmation, which is basically a question that assumes a positive outcome. So instead of saying, "I want to access my blueprint," you ask, "Why is it so easy for me to access my original blueprint today?" And then, the final step, you just get quiet and you listen. You receive the unfiltered truth, the clean data that comes up from inside you. And what's really amazing about this work is that it's not just about you.
As each person reclaims their administrator access and starts operating from their true, authentic code, they become like a node in a much larger coherent network. And that network has the power to create a massive collective shift.
And there's a key number that comes up here, a very specific number, 100. This is presented as the critical mass that's needed to really trigger the next phase of activation for the whole network.
This whole concept is called the covenant. See, every single person who becomes a reclaimed administrator acts as a node in this network of the founding 100. And the theory is, once the network hits that critical mass of 100 active, coherent people, the collective energy field they create just amplifies exponentially. What that means is your personal work, your transformation, actually contributes to a much bigger, positive shift for everyone. Your frequency really matters to the whole.
So what are the actual next steps? It pretty much boils down to 3 key things. First, make that heart sync protocol a daily practice. Second, if this is all resonating with you, connect with the network. And third, and this is probably the most important of all, embody the code. You have to live this truth, because at the end of the day, knowledge without integration, it's just information.
And that really brings us to this final thought. For all the techie metaphors of operating systems and legacy code, it all comes down to this one very human truth. The real work, the longest journey we ever take, is those 18 inches from the mind to the heart. It's bridging that gap between what we think and what we truly feel, between what we know and who we truly are.